That 70s show actor Danny Masterson has been sentenced to 30 years in prison for rape. Well, rapes, plural. So this is actually a pretty crazy situation. Like I skimmed it a little bit, but almost from what it seems like is that there's not really any hard evidence, which is kind of like mind blowing to me. But we'll get into kind of like why pretty much. So let's get into it. That 70s show star Danny Masterson was sentenced to 30 years in prison Thursday for raping two women at the height of his celebrity 2 decades ago. Masterson, 47, meaning that at this when this happened, he was 27, was found guilty of raping victims Jen B and N Trout in his Hollywood area home back in 2003, remained silent in court as he was sentenced to 15 years for each count, which will be served consecutively, and the maximum sentence allowable under the law. One way or another, you will have to come to terms with your prior actions and their consequences, Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Charlene Omedo told Masterson. Entrout slammed the actor as a violent man, but said she forgave him and hopes he'll improve in prison, according to court reporter Megan Kuniff. The thing is, would he improve? Because 47 now, 30 years from now, that would make him 77. Like, there's a lot that can happen in prison during that time. You relish in hurting women. It is your addiction. It is without question your favorite thing to do, she read in her victim impact statement before the sentencing. Life is precious and fragile. Find your heart, learn something, read books, listen to the brightness of nothing, and get well. I forgive you, she added. Interesting. Now, on like a side note, I don't think many people actually know this, which is kind of like crazy when I found this out a while ago. But it makes this whole situation even crazier when you think about it. So, this guy, right, Danny, has just been, convicted of this, but someone in this cast, right, this one, Ashton Kutcher, literally has like a charity foundation kind of thing where all they do is basically hunt down people who commit horrendous acts like this, right? So it's kind of crazy, like the split where you have one person that did something extremely heinous, and you have another person who literally goes after people who do things very heinous. Like I think Ashton Kutcher was in like a court hearing where he was telling people about a program that his foundation developed that basically traces and identifies potential, well, of actual victims within certain films of not of age people getting brutally attacked, right? In this type of fashion, where the program works so well that basically the government is basically like trying to get him, well, like it's like asking him for help basically. Like, it was like a really crazy situation, but I just find it like so crazy that you have Ashton Kutcher, who's like practically like an angel on one side, and then you got Danny, who's like a devil. Like it's crazy. But what's also crazy is like every single one of these people that basically like went in this show are probably filthy rich. And like it's kind of crazy to see what people do with their wealth. One person goes and tries to help kids who have been victimized and attacked. Another guy lives a life of debauchery. So Jen B, meanwhile, used her time to reiterate that there was no conspiracy to take down Masterson or the Church of Scientology. Prosecutors allege that Masterson used his celebrity and prominence in the Church of Scientology, where his victims were also members, to skirt the law and avoid accountability. Sorry, Leah's not behind this, Jim B said, referencing actress Leah Remini, a former member of the church who has become an outspoken critic. The victims testified that they were given drinks by Masterson that made them pass out, and he proceeded to violently rape them. Prosecutors said N. Trout was raped so viciously that she threw up in her mouth and begged Masterson to at least use a condom. And when the woman reported Masterson to Scientology officials, they were told they were not raped and were put through an ethics program. Like, can you imagine that even happening to you? Like, imagine this like heinous act happened to you. You go and report it, and they're like, "No, you're incorrect. That didn't happen. Go through this course that you probably got to pay for." Like, what the hell? They told the court that Scientology officials also warned them not to report the crime to the police because Masterson was such a high-ranking member of the church. And like this is the like really sketchy thing about Scientology for anyone who may not really know much about Scientology. But Scientology pretty much treats the higher members of their cult practically like gods, right? Like royalty. To the point where they will pretty much bend over backwards to help these individuals with pretty much anything just so that their reputation doesn't get tarnished because they're like a magnet that is just like pulling in all of these potential like new cult members to come in to the whole Scientology thing. And also, every single Scientologist gives like a crazy amount of money, especially these celebrities gives a crazy amount of money to the church. So although a jury found Masterson guilty of 2 counts of rape, following an initial deadlocked vote, the panel could not reach a unanimous verdict on a third count, alleging Masterson also assaulted his longtime girlfriend, Christina Bixler. Masterson has denied any wrongdoing but did not testify in court, nor did his lawyers call any witnesses to the stand. Instead, the defense argued that the sexual acts were consensual and accused the woman of coordinating stories to discredit the former Hollywood star. So Masterson was never charged with any counts of drugging, and there is no toxicology evidence to back up the woman's story. And following the sentence hearing, defense attorney Sean Hawley told reporters outside the courthouse that she was filing an appeal. Now, you could basically say your own opinion if you stumble upon this. Did he do it? Did he not do it? Just because you're convicted doesn't necessarily mean that you did 100% do it. Because the weird thing about this situation, now I didn't like read through like the court transcripts at all, but I find it odd that you can be convicted of this type of crime 20 years past without any physical evidence of it technically happening. You're basically going off of the testimony of 2 individuals versus one, even though the one didn't technically testify. Like, he didn't testify in his defense, which is kind of weird as well. So it's just kind of odd, right? Now, who knows? Like, maybe there's something inside the court documents that basically shows something a little bit more tangible. But just like reading it from like the news article, it sounds kind of crazy that it seems like he got convicted on pretty much just words, like just an accusation, right? In a sense. Now, he could have done it. I don't know, right? I just find it kind of crazy like that there isn't like more evidence to this whole situation. Like if there was like a video, if there was like text messages, if there was like something going on, if there's like a police report. But the problem is, obviously, because of the whole like weird cult thing of Scientology, right? Like, I don't really know what's really true in this situation. But the thing is, the guy probably has enough money to appeal this and find some sort of way to get out of it. Or maybe not get out of it, but maybe really lessen the 30 years. Because again, 30 years with what it seems like that there's no hard evidence seems kind of crazy. Let's see. So following, yeah. So for the past several months, a team of the top appellate lawyers in the country have been reviewing transcripts of the trial. They have identified a number of significant evidentiary and constitutional issues, which they will address in briefs to both state and federal appellate courts, she said. The errors which occurred in this case are substantial and unfortunately led to verdicts which are not supported by the evidence, she added. And although we have great respect for the jury in this case and for our system of justice overall, sometimes they get it wrong. And the Church of Scientology also issued a statement labeling the women's testimony uniformly false. Like, see, the thing is, like, I just don't understand, right? Because again, I still haven't really seen anything that, like, really shows, again, any hard evidence of him actually doing it. Let's see some of these comments. And feel free to give your thoughts as well. I just thought this was kind of interesting. Mainly so that one, every single one of these actors from this show are like filthy rich, but two, like he couldn't have had a better lawyer with that money to like kind of beat a case that doesn't really seem like that there was really evidence against him. Like it's kind of like weird. It's kind of like saying like that person over there stole my apple 10 years ago and then beat me with it, right? But there's no evidence that he necessarily took the apple. There's no evidence that he technically beat you with the apple. I just find it very odd. Let's see. My comment does not mean anything because I didn't read court transcripts. Agreed. Like, same. I did not read the court transcripts, so again, I don't know. Right? But this person says American court in general is biased. If we want a jury of peers to be impartial, then all witnesses, defendants, and plaintiffs should be visually anonymous, and their names anonymous, and there should be physical evidence. Just my 2 cents. I agree, right? Like because the thing is like the problem with like the court system. If you look like a certain way or a certain type of person, they're probably going to not really side with you. Like your peers are not really going to side with you. So, like, if you're like an extremely attractive person, for example, there's like a story of like some female teacher that like slept with her student that was underage, but she got like a slap on the wrist or something like that. Like, but if you had like the same aged person doing that in the same profession, but they were bald and was wearing like Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, do you think that they would be treated the same way? Probably not. It's kind of like crazy when you think about it. If he did it, then good, agreed. But I'm a bit concerned that this article gives absolutely no evidence that was presented other than they said so. They didn't report it to cops, so there's no forensic evidence. And 20 years later, they just say he did it and he gets 30 years. I hope I'm wrong. Hmm. Hmm. Not that he's not a terrible person, and not that he didn't do this, but it feels kind of odd seeing someone go to jail for 30 years for a 20-plus-year-old crime where the only evidence is someone's or two people's testimony. Maybe I missed the real evidence. Yeah, there's like a lot of people in this comment section that are like really like kind of dumbstruck that he's getting 30 years in this type of situation without like hard evidence. Hmm. This person says five of them reported the rapes at the time it occurred to the church. The church covered it up. Masterson paid $400,000 to shut them up. Yeah, sure, he's just an innocent man. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if. Hold on. Danny Masterson. So, Danny Masterson, evidence. Mm, hmm. Hmm. So, Scientology officials told one survivor she would lose her membership of the community unless she signed a non disclosure agreement and accepted a payment of $400,000, according to prosecutors. Again, like, I still don't see anything about evidence. Okay, interesting. What was the evidence against him that got him life in prison? Okay, so yeah, from everything that I'm seeing, it's testimony. But what's interesting is that it seems like there was more women involved in this situation, but because of the statute of limitations and not enough evidence, they weren't included in the thing. Which, if they were, it wouldn't have been 30 years, it would have been 60? Yeah, that's crazy. But again, I still don't. Hmm. I still don't see anything that talks about. Hmm. Babette Ross comes forward as one of the accusers. So there was quite a few accusers, but again, there's not really any, like anything that I see for like hard evidence in this situation. Unless I'm like crazy. If you stumble upon this episode, right? Please like provide like a link to like somewhere that it says like hard evidence about this. Yeah, again, like I'm trying to like skim through like this like super long post from like people, but I'm literally not seeing any hard evidence. Okay, yeah, I don't know. This, in a way, this is kind of like a really scary situation if you were to really think about it, because again, from everything that I've seen, I haven't seen any like hard evidence, and it seems like he's just being like, there's just like ladies from his past that accused him of this, and now he's convicted of it. Like, in a way, that's scary. And the reason why I say that is like, now look, he might have done the stuff, and if he did, go to prison, right? But imagine if he didn't, right? Imagine if you are in a situation now, let's say that you are married, have kids, and whatnot, living a normal life, and then like 20, like, like girlfriends, ladies that you slept with 20 years ago, out of nowhere, just accuse you of heinous stuff without any hard evidence against you, without any police reports, without any DNA evidence, without any text messages, without any phone calls, without etc. Like nothing that actually specifically shows that you did in fact do this, and you can go to prison basically for the rest of your life. That's a pretty scary situation. Yeah, I don't know. Feel free to give your thoughts. I just thought that this would be kind of an interesting thing because even though this doesn't necessarily deal with money per se, in the reality, money does tie into this because you have to spend a lot of money for a lawyer. The legal issues are very expensive. I mean, he's probably been like dealing with like he has been dealing with this for like years already. And also, it's not like going against someone is cheap too, right? For like the ladies that are doing the accusations against him, unless they have like someone that is like pretty like good with like really deep pockets behind them, it probably costs a lot to like try to go after him too. So no matter what, like the whole like legal world is an extremely expensive process. So like lawyers, court fees, he probably still has to pay like some sort of restitution to the ladies, even though he's going to be spending the rest of his life pretty much in there. Because I mean, he's probably going to pass away in there. Like to be frank, if he does end up serving his time there. But wow, really, really crazy.